Welcome students, welcome to this important video on environmental economics. The topic that I shall present to you today is market failure. The primary aim of environmental economics is to analyze and provide solutions to protect the environment by applying several mainstream neoclassical theories and principles. The neoclassical model indicates that the economic decisions made by individuals and individual consumers and producers are driven by self interest. However, this self interest driven economics is not without limitations, in fact, severe limitations, and these limitations cannot be ignored with special reference to environmental resources. So, economists have used the concept of market failure to understand how environmental resources do not follow the principles of market mechanism directly. Let's look at what are the characteristics of environmental resources and what is the nature of this environmental good. Do we have them in unlimited quantity and quality? Can we increase the supply of these goods when there is an increased demand for that? For example, if there is a short term need for more trees, can we increase the number of trees there? And so on. So, the characteristic of the environmental good itself poses certain problems for market mechanism to function. So, what we can do is we can categorize the good based on certain attributes. This categorization of good is a concept that we borrow from the subject of public finance. There are two attributes of goods. One is excludability and the other is rivalry. When we use the word excludability, it means certain people can be selectively allowed to consume the good and others can be selectively kept out from consuming the good. This arises because we can use price as a tool to limit the usage of a particular good. So, if a person has to enjoy a particular good, then he or she has to buy that good and only then enjoy that good. So, this is the characteristic of normal goods. But then there are also goods which can become non excludable. That means uh, price cannot be put on certain goods and make certain goods not to be available, not to be consumed by individual. In such a case, we'll say that certain goods are non excludable. What happens to good air or polluted air? Can we prevent anyone from consuming it? Selectively, can we choose who will consume bad air and good air? It's not possible. So now what we will do is we will categorize the goods into private goods, common resources, club goods, and public goods. This can be done based on the attributes of the good. So the first type of good is a private good. Private goods are houses, cars, etc. Household garbage also we have put there as a private good. Now, what is the characteristic of these goods? These goods are excludable, which means others cannot enjoy the good or others need not experience the bad. So, household goods will be purchased by individuals, and therefore, only the person who has purchased can enjoy that good. It is also household garbage. The person who has generated that garbage has to keep that garbage inside the house. So, it is not available for others to experience the sight of that garbage pile. At the same time, these kind of goods are rival. They are rival because if it is consumed by one party, it cannot be consumed by other. Category of goods are non-excludable. That means the goods that fall into this category are available for all to consume, and nobody can exclude anybody from that consumption. On the other hand, these goods are rival. That means what is consumed will always reduce what is left for others to consume. In this particular case, I have given example of fish and timber and pasture. So if we continue to fish the way we fish, then less and less fish will be made available. Or the pasture, if more cows graze on the pasture, then the availability of grass will also reduce. This topic itself becomes an interesting subject in environmental economics called the tragedy of commons, which I shall present you in a later video. The third category, we can call it as non-rival goods. What are these non-rival goods? These are also known as club goods. So these goods have the characteristics of excludability. That means people can be excluded from consuming that particular good, but they are not rival in nature. For example, movie theater tickets or Wi-Fi or toll gates. In all of these cases, if we want to enjoy the benefit of watching a movie or using the Wi-Fi or a toll gate, in all these cases what is happening is the individual has paid for that service, and those who have paid for that service, only they can enjoy it. On the other hand, it is non-rival in nature. That means if a person uses Wi-Fi, it doesn't make less of Wi-Fi available to others. Or if a person is watching a movie in a theater after paying for the ticket, it doesn't a person's watching the movie does not reduce the other person's watching movie in the same theater, or a person using the toll gate will not reduce the availability of road for the other. But it is possible that if too much of it is used, it can result in congestion. So we can. The fourth category is the nature of environmental goods. What is that nature here? These goods are non-excludable. That means we cannot prevent anyone from consuming these kind of goods. Nobody can be prevented from consuming fresh water or enjoying good air or good scenery. These are available to all. We cannot exclude anybody, and these are non-rival. Using of fresh air in no way reduces the availability of fresh air for others. Similarly, environmental goods also, we have environmental bad. Environmental bad, like polluted air, is a bad resource because it is non-excludable. Nobody can be excluded from breathing polluted air, and they are non-rival. One person's consuming more of polluted air in no way reduces the availability of polluted air for the other person. So, in such as is the case of greenhouse gases, it is that even across countries, if one country has to experience greenhouse gases, then the other country also experiences. It is not rival. So these kind of goods are known as public goods, and environmental good is a public good. Now, having understood the nature of environmental goods as a public good, which is both non-excludable and non-rival, now we will apply the principle of market mechanism to see if it can help us understand the problems that environmental resources face. When we talk about market in economics, we are essentially talking about rational consumers and rational producers who are interested in maximizing their profits on one hand, and the consumer is interested in maximizing his or her benefits on the other. They have got conflicting interest, and this conflicting interest is reconciled in the market through the principle of market mechanism or through the signal of price. So markets use price to communicate to producers and consumers what to produce and what to consume. It is Markets are essentially a decentralized process, and the decision making is not costly at all. So now what I will do is I shall explain to you the principles of market by using the very basic graphs which students of economics are familiar with, and which has been studied in microeconomics. However, I shall give the links to these videos in the description box, which you may watch and understand it better. So there are two elements in a market, the demand element and the supply element. So I'm just taking the demand element here. So on the vertical axis, we have the price. On the horizontal axis, we have the quantity demanded. And you can see in the diagram, the prices are shown as P1, P2, P3, and P4 and P, and these are falling. The prices are falling from P1 to P. So when prices are falling, what we can also see is the corresponding increase in the quantity demanded. So at price P1, the quantity demanded is Q1. At price P3, the quantity demanded is Q3. And at price P, the quantity demanded is PE. So this consumer is getting a diminishing marginal benefit. That means as more and more units of the goods are consumed, the consumers benefit, additional benefit that goes on diminishing. This diagram, the second diagram, is on market supply. Market supply is just the opposite side of market demand. Higher the price, higher the supply, which means sellers are willing to offer more when the prices are high. And the other thing that about the seller is, as he goes increasing the supply of the commodity, the cost of production will also increase. So the upward supply curve is written as marginal private cost. So to produce more means incurring more cost. So having understood the demand curve and the supply curve, we will bring the demand and supply curve together, juxtapose it in one diagram. In this particular diagram, what you're seeing is the demand curve and the supply curve is intersecting each other at the point E. At point E, we get the quantity QE and the price P, which means this price is acceptable both to the buyer and to the seller. And at that price, the quantity that is offered in the market and the quantity that is purchased in the market are the same. So the market is said to be in equilibrium. This condition of market equilibrium is said to be Pareto efficient. And in this free market, we expect to arrive at these kind of solutions where there is neither an overproduction or an underproduction. Both the consumer and the producer have accepted the outcome of the market. And we cannot make the producer better off without making the consumer worse off, or the consumer cannot be the consumer cannot be made better off without making the producer worse off. So that is the ideal situation of market. There is one more concept that we will be using it sometime, and this is a simple concept in the sense area keep the consumer in mind, for the green area keep the producer in mind. Looking at it this way, an individual consumer was willing to pay C price. OC was the price a consumer was willing to pay. Let me say it is 40 for an individual consumer. So the individual consumer is willing to pay 40 rupees, and actually what he needs to pay in the market is only say 20 rupees. He was willing to pay 40, but he has to pay only 20. So consumer feels that he has got an additional benefit of CPE. So what is the total benefit the consumers have got? Total benefit is CPE multiplied by the quantity, which is OQE. So that red triangle is the extra benefit that the consumer got. Though he was willing to pay a higher price, he could obtain that good at a lower price. On the other hand, the producer also experiences something like that, where the seller was willing to sell the commodity at point F price, but finally he managed to sell the commodity in the market at price PE. So the vertical distance EF is the extra revenue that the firm obtained. So the total extra revenue that the firm obtained is EF multiplied by OQE. So we cannot make the consumer better off in this scene, nor can we make the producer better off one scene without altering their size of their triangles. So now let's come to this important topic of market failure. which is an understanding that we put together about market, about demand, supply, Pareto efficiency, and the nature of environmental goods. When all we combine all of these concepts together to understand what is market failure. Market failure now is a condition when Pareto optimality cannot be satisfied. That means the market fails to deliver optimal, efficient allocation of resources. Either there is too much of some good that is produced or too little of a good that is produced. Is use the concepts that we have just described earlier, the concept of public good, then the demand, supply, interaction, and Pareto optimality. All the five concepts can be studied together to explain what is known as market failure with special reference to environmental goods. Francis Bacon wrote an important paper in 1958 titled The Anatomy of Market Failure, where he explained that markets are not able to stop undesirable activities, nor is it able to sustain desirable activities. And therefore, goods that are not needed in the quantities that are being produced is produced, or what is needed to be produced does not get produced. So, in such a situation, the markets have not been able to allocate the resources efficiently. There is wastage or overconsumption of some goods in the market. Explains market failure as the inability of the market to encourage or to continue or to sustain the production of what is good for society, and the market's inability to restrain or stop the market from producing undesirable commodities. So, a market is not able to direct production and consumption activities, and it cannot lead to a Pareto efficient solution. So, such conditions are known as a market failure. Even in the case of environmental goods, with the nature of environmental goods, we can experience market failure. We can explain market failure also with a diagram. Environmental economics uses the same neoclassical model diagrams. So now we have got the downward sloping demand curve, which is also the marginal private benefit, and you have the upward sloping marginal private cost, which is the supply curve for the environmental goods. So the two supply curve and the demand curve intersect each other at point E, and that is the Pareto efficient position of quantity OQE and price OP. Now look at the top portion of the diagram where the dotted line. What is the dotted line indicating? When the price is PS, then the suppliers are willing to sell an extra quantity of A1. The price is very high, and it incentivizes the producer to produce an extra quantity of A1. Then look at the green dotted line. Here the prices are so low that it incentivizes consumers to consume an extra amount of B1. So there is an extra demand or shortage of good in the market, and there is an extra supply or production of good in the market, which is A1. A1 and B1 are undesirable in the activity in the economy according to the Pareto optimality condition. This AA1 and BB1 creates problem for the resource allocation. So the price is not able to do the signaling function. Price is not able to stop the certain activities from happening. Now let's take the example of habitat destruction. In the case of habitat destruction or a threat to environmental diversity on the earth, the question is, why does it happen? It is undesirable. But why is there this increased demand for biodiversity destruction? It means the prices of timber or of agricultural land is not able to provide a control over the habitat destruction. It is not able to signal that this kind of an activity should stop, because biodiversity nature is what? It is a public good. Because it is a public good, market cannot stop that good from being overused in the environmental resources. So at the same time, market is not able to produce more of clean beaches, so the seasides are littered with waste. Market is not able to direct people to keep the beaches clean. So the consumption activity and production activity both are not being controlled by market, and therefore we say that market has failed with regard to environmental resources. What you can see is the habitat destruction. Now, habitat is what? Is it a private good, a club good, a common good, or a public good? It is a public good because it is non-rival and it is non-excludable. So animals live there. But what happens to the economic agents? Economic agents find that they have access to the resource. As much as they're accessing the resource doesn't stop others from accessing that resource. Therefore, the prices of land or the prices of the wood that they cut down does not in any way signal that there is going to be a shortage or there is going to be an overproduction of these resources. So that is why it is called an example of market failure in environmental resources. So the next video will be on externalities. This particular unit on externality and market is very important for environmental economics student, because much of the environmental economics subject is based on the study of markets. Thank you very much. I hope you have subscribed to this video and you watch this video till the end, and click the like button and also write a comment or two. It makes me feel good that my videos are being useful to you.